Dooby doo 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 ba 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 Ooh, baby, 16 bars. You got this. Dooby doo 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 ba 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 ba
It'd be great if we just start off and stuff. So let's welcome our special guest, singer, songwriter, Angie. Hello, Han.
Hi guys, how are you?
Hello.
So good to see you all.
So good to see you.
I'm starstruck once again.
Nah.
Good as yeah. I mean, it's funny because as Stevie would say, sometimes growing up, you'd listen to songs, see the videos, buy the CDs, but you never. It's almost like a distant thing to think that you'd ever meet, talk, or even share a platform with. So it is definitely an honor for us to be able to have you on board today.
Thank you. A pleasure to be here for sure.
Yes. We generally have an international audience, and it's always good for us just to get to some state, where you sort of born and raised, so we sort of everyone can get a picture of where you're from.
Okay. I was born and kind of raised in Memphis, Tennessee, in the U.S.
Elvis country.
Then we moved to Atlanta when I was in high school. And then I moved to Vegas and then LA and then Vegas again. And now I'm back in Atlanta. Okay. But my music days, during the Atlantic Records days, I was in Atlanta.
So around when did you move to Atlanta? Because, everyone would say Atlanta is now the Black Mecca, but I know that, before LaFace Records blew up there, it wasn't the case. Were you there? How soon? When did you move? When did you first move to Atlanta?
So yes, actually, I was in Atlanta. I moved to Atlanta when I was in high school. So my project, was out a little bit before LaFace Records blew up in Atlanta. So yeah, that was right. Yeah, TLC was just coming out. It was really a new that the beginning of that new Atlanta music scene. Yeah, well, the second round of Atlanta music scene. We're kind of on the third one now with all of the hip hop strength and that the urban music, but. There was that old school round where there was SOS, Brick, all of those groups. So that was what I'm considering the first round. Then the second round was my project. We had TLC, we had Pebbles, we had so many of those, the artists that came out then, and then we had the third group. So the Resurgence, which is currently strong and going.
And I see why you connected the dots, because I was looking at the credits on your album, and your engineer, Eddie Irons, he was down with Brick back in the days.
Yes.
Engineer. So I was like, wow, how did she get him? But then you just said it, the whole Atlanta thing. Okay.
Yes. Actually, I met him because I was in a girls group before my project. I was in this girls group and we were trying to get a deal, and we were trying to record a demo. And he had just come off of the Big Brick run, and he was playing with SOS and some other bands, but he owned a recording studio, and we went to his recording studio to do our little demo. And he called me back maybe months later and said, hey, I remember you from the group. I don't know what you guys are doing, but if you're interested, I'd like to do a project. And the other girls had gone on to do something with Richard Dimplesfields. I don't know if you guys remember him, but yes, they went on to do something with him, and I had decided not to go that route. So I was available to do the project with Eddie Irons, and the rest is history. I ended up marrying him, and so there's that.
Okay, there's the story. Yeah, okay, there's the story.
Yeah.
I mean, you pulled the name out the bag there, Richard Dimplesfield. Can I just say, I love your hairdo, Anne.
Thank you.
You're looking absolutely sensational. It looks very high maintenance, though, your hair. Does it take a lot to prepare?
Actually, it does not. It's very low maintenance, which is what I love about it most.
Wow.
And my whole life is about low maintenance, easygoing, contentment, peace, love, God, that whole thing. So this is easy, and I love that. Wow. Easy life is my thing. So yeah, I thank you though. I appreciate your recognition and your appreciation. Yes.
I know it's obvious we'll get into a bit later on, but that look you've got now, kind of, did it transpire during the second album?
Yes, as I'm noticing, the CD cover behind you, that's very funny. It's the same. Wait, let me turn my speaker back up. Yes, it's the same hairstyle. Yes, so it's like evolved back, back to the beginning. Yes.
Yeah.
Wow.
I mean, for most artists, how did you? And we don't want to be presumptuous, but how did you actually get into singing as a kid?
My mother bought a piano for me when I was 4 years old. And if you can imagine, most kids will practice something, they say they want to do something. And then when it comes to, getting down to the nitty gritty, the real practice of it and perfection of it, it gets to be, not of interest. So I lost interest in the piano. And my mother said, "Oh, no, baby. I paid for this piano. So what you gonna do? You're gonna practice these piano lessons." So I continued to practice, even though I didn't necessarily want to, but she made it more interesting for me by purchasing books with popular music. So I was able to learn the songs that I would hear on the radio, and I was able to play those on piano. So that made it more interesting for me. And I kept that up and ended up, actually, I sang just to go along with my playing the piano at first. And then I ended up enjoying singing more than I played piano just to go along with my singing, and went on from there.
But from that, how did that ever become something that you thought, actually, I can actually have a career in this? I mean, because
Yeah, it's a big jump, right?
Yeah.
Okay. Well, music just became my primary interest. I really was not interested in anything else. I won't say I couldn't have done something else if I needed to, but it just was my primary interest. And by the time, I was one of those kids who did not fit into the groups in high school. So there was no clique that I really fit well into. It was just that I just wanted to do music. I wasn't really interested in, being the popular kid or hanging out or doing this or doing that. It was just kind of me and my music. So it was kind of like a natural thing for me. After a while, after I completed high school, I'd done talent shows and that kind of thing at school. And I had a friend who approached me and said, "Hey, there's this girls group forming, and I'm not really appropriate for the girls group, but I thought you were." So I went to meet them, and that was the group that ended up signing with Dimples. So really just sort of, I fell into what was natural. I wasn't seeking a group to sing with. I just didn't have any other interests, and it just sort of came to me. And I mean, I was very, very grateful. At the same time, I knew socially there were certain things I didn't want, you know, certain kinds of environments I didn't want to find myself in. And contractually, what Dimples had offered them was just not something that appealed to me, even as a young adult. So that, you know, that kind of X'd me out of that. And even after that, I wasn't going to seek some other opportunity in music, but that was just my only interest. I did have a day job, but I wasn't looking for that day job to be my career. And then I was going to night classes at Georgia State. But yeah, all of that just sort of came to me. The path created itself. And I'm so grateful because, I mean, it's all I wanted to do. so thank God. But, yeah, the path created itself for me.
Who were you looking at as artists? You know, you talked about joining the girl group. I mean, had Unvogue come out by the time you know, because there weren't that many girl groups. Because you think about Supremes and back in the 80s, I don't know, apart from the Weather Girls, were there many female groups? So who were you looking at to think, okay, I'll be part of a girl group?
Yeah, that's interesting because, as you say it, En Vogue had not come out. In fact, I was on Atlantic Records when En Vogue came out because one of the A&R guys came to me, and that was the era, I don't know if you guys remember, where there were lots of girl groups right before En Vogue that weren't really singers. They weren't, you know what I mean? Like they were, I won't say that they weren't artists, because I think being an artist is more than being a singer. There are lots of good singers who just aren't qualified artists. But there were lots of manufactured, I will say, girls groups where record labels saw the opportunity to market, and they put these girl groups together, and, you know, they were just out there. But this A&R guy came to me and said, what do you think of this girl group? And when he played En Vogue's music, I was like, they can sing. So, it's a shame that I was surprised, but I was. And yeah, so when our group was trying to get a deal, I don't even remember who would have been, you know, someone that we looked up to as a girls group. I don't recall. And maybe we were trying to be one of the groups that could actually sing and harmonize and that kind of thing in that era of manufactured girls groups. So,
what was the name of the group?
Ooh, I'm ashamed to say. It was Toys for the Boys.
Oh, wow.
Did it ever get past the demo stage then? Did you put a single out or anything?
No. And even under Dimple's contract, they never did put a record out. But one of the members, I will tell you, ended up being, and I hope she won't crucify me for this, but she was a lead singer for Atlantic Star at one time. So
wow. Yes.
So yes, and she and I are still very good friends. In fact, I'm her children's godmother. So yeah.
Toys for the Boys. I wonder. I mean, even the Pussycat Girls would be saying, "Wow, that's you know, we thought we were risky, but that's yeah."
I know it's awful now, but you know the things we do when we're younger. Oh my goodness.
That's so 80s, you know.
Oh my goodness.
Wow. But you know, the other thing that you mentioned was the fact that when they offered you the contract, you said, "No, this isn't what." You know, and so many of our established artists who we've spoke about, they just saw whatever money was in front of them and just signed. How did you just think, actually, you know, as much as this looks like my golden chance to get in, it's not a good deal, and I'd rather just wait for the right opportunity? What did you really read it like other people don't, or what did you do differently?
I read it for sure. I read it, and because I wasn't feverishly seeking an opportunity, it wasn't, seeing as how I realized it wasn't the right opportunity. It wasn't a great opportunity where I would be happy doing that. I was able to turn it down. Maybe if I had been at that place in my life where I was going, I've got to become a singer. I've just got to become a famous singer. I just got to, maybe I would have looked at it differently and gone, well, this is not that good, but you know, this is all I got, so I'm gonna go with that. I wasn't at that place in my life. It was just like, I'd rather work my day job than be miserable. So,
do you feel that, because a lot of contemporary singers from that time and even some after, singing was like a pathway out of their personal situation, regardless of what it might have been. But it seems like what you're describing is that you had a full sense of self, a full sense of identity prior to coming into the music business, and that really informed the decisions that you made. Do you think that's true?
I would say that is true. I would say yes. I mean, even looking back, I think I could have been a more confident young adult, but I had enough confidence not to want to bring what I felt like would be unhappiness to myself. I had an optimism, I guess, that something else would come along for me that wouldn't, if it was the right thing for me, it wouldn't make me miserable. It wouldn't be something that would, you know, set me back in that kind of way. So if I was seeking something good, then why would I put myself in this position? You know, I wasn't feverishly seeking anything in particular. I knew I wanted to do music, but I also wanted to be happy. I also, like you said, had a sense of self. I didn't want to be taken advantage of. So yeah, I guess maybe I was more confident than I've thought all this time. So looking back, yeah, I had a little sense of self. You're right. Okay.
No, it's good to see you hear the other side of it, because as I said, too many others have said, yeah, man, it was after 4 years we realized we signed. I remember Timmy Gatlin saying that he saw a word and he had to look up in the dictionary. It says forever. And he's like, what?
Yes. Perpetuity. Yes.
Perpetuity. Yeah. He said,
Yes.
he said he had to look it up, and he said, oh, you mean forever? And he said, no, I'm not going to sign it. And while the others, Teddy and Aaron, signed away without reading it, because it was like, this is our shot. So it's great to hear your side of it, because not every, it helps the younger artists come through saying, you know, it's that, you don't need to take the first thing that comes their way.
Right.
The getting to Atlantic, then, how did that opportunity come then, being signed by?
That was through Eddie Irons. I worked on this project. It probably took us 2 years to get that deal. That I worked feverishly on. At that point, I was working my day job, and I'd have to go to the studio to meet him after work. And it was a brutal schedule. Like, sometimes I remember going in on Friday to the studio, and the studio was called 2560 here in Atlanta. And it was a little studio way down this dirt road. Certain people knew about it, but it was, there were all the windows were blocked out. So it was completely dependent upon, electric lights inside. There was no daylight coming through the studio. So I would go in on Friday and stay up the entire weekend. I mean, I'd fall asleep 20 minutes here, 30 minutes there, that kind of thing. But the entire weekend we would be working, and I'd come out sometimes on Monday and it's daylight and I got to go to work. They had a shower there. I would take my clothes and take a shower and go to work from the studio, having come in there on Friday. I don't even know how we did that. I don't know how we did that, but I mean, that wasn't every weekend, but it certainly happened more than a few times. So we worked on that for about 2 years and finally got that deal through association with Michael Malden, who is Jermaine Dupri's dad. And Michael Malden was my manager at the time. And he, in conjunction with Ed's work and another producer on the project, Teddy Bland, they got that deal for me. So yeah, I was very grateful at the time, and we worked hard and we were able to make that happen.
Around what year was this? So just trying to see what the music scene was like when you first got.
Ooh, you putting my business out there now. Okay, let's see. The year was, oh my goodness.
Well, if you worked 2 years on the project, it came out in 1989. Let's work it out. Let's do the maths. Good evening to Delicious, by the way. Watch live.
Yes,
Yeah.
right. There you go. You got it, Stevie. That's right. Yes. So yes,
Yeah.
89. So 87. Yeah.
So we're thinking, because I'm just trying to see who was out.
87 or 86, because it takes, once we got the deal, the record didn't come out right away. So it might have been 86 when we started working on that project. Yeah.
So by the time you came out, so am I right to say that Karen White, Pebbles,
Not
Joey
yet.
Watley? Oh, not yet.
Karen White was a major influence for me. So that's funny you should mention her. The night that Atlantic Records announced me to the industry as their new female artist was at the Jack the Rapper.
Oh, Jack the Rapper. Okay.
Yes. And Karen White was one of the performers that night. And that was the first time I'd ever seen her. And she was so amazing. And the vibrato that she used, I was just like, ooh, I got to get that. So I practiced that vibrato. That is one of my things now. To this day, Karen White's vibrato is found in my style.
Wow. Karen's one of my favorites. I love Karen, but I love her energy, her performance and stuff. So I was just trying to see who the females out with that were there. So you were like, wow.
Yes, it was Karen White. I'm trying to remember other female. Pebbles was out at the same time. I remember she was on the charts at the same time. What are the other female vocalists that were out? Karen White really just stands out. I don't remember.
This is 88? Is this 88?
Yes, this would be 88. Yes, because the record came out in 89. Yes,
There was
yes.
Jodie Watley. There was Janet.
Mm-hmm.
I'm just thinking of the sound you went with eventually on that 89 album. What it kind of
Yes.
It's a mixture of all them ladies.
Yeah, Janet for sure. Janet was I was on the chart once at the same time that Janet was. Who else?
Was Michelet out? Was Michelet out at the time? Michelet.
She was out, I think, after. I want to say she was a couple of years after. But there were a lot of even male artists because of that whole New Jack Swing thing. Male artists dominated that New Jack Swing vibe. And there was like Guy. They were a heavy influence for us. Teddy Riley. I'm trying to remember the other groups. Now that I'm on the spot, of course, I can't remember them.
No. I mean, we know the male groups. I mean, we know the male groups and stuff. But it's just mostly trying to see how the feet, because it's easy to start talking about Anita and Stephanie Mills and Alison Williams and Whitney Houston and stuff. But those weren't the types of sounds that you were doing.
Right. It was more of a dance thing. It was
Cover Girls and the Cover Girls and the Sweet Sensation. It was those dance groups.
Yeah, it was more dancey stuff, and even a little rap stuff that we were influenced by. So it was a little different from what I feel like was happening with most female artists. we even got Jermaine to come in and do some stuff, and it didn't quite work out. It was just before Jermaine did his thing. In fact, his dad was shopping his stuff while he was managing my project. And it was funny, as popular as Jermaine became, it was like, can you believe we actually turned down one of Jermaine's raps? That was the dumbest thing that we
He had a girl group out at the time as well that everyone's forgotten about. Silk Times Leather, do you remember them?
Yeah.
Yes. Silk Times Leather. That was his first group. That was
forgotten about them.
Yes, Silk Times Leather. Yes.
I'll tell you what I'm really impressed about though. Eddie being like from a funk band, making all that funk music in the 70s, coming into the 80s, and then being able to move with the times and basically produce New Jack, produce the dance, R&B, pop groove. I mean, tell me about working on the album, the production, the sounds that you was making with Eddie.
Yes, I think one of the things that put him in the position to move with the times like that is the fact that he was also doing, he owned that studio. So he had all those artists coming in, all those current artists, and he was engineering. He was actually engineering and mixing those projects. So he mixed, a lot of the rap stuff that was coming along, just all kinds of groups. So he was really still very much in that music with all the younger artists that were coming in. So he never really left it. He was just in the background of it, and it served him to be able to produce more current music as the times move. So,
and it seemed like he was much younger than a lot of the peers who were out. Everyone was maybe slightly older, so it seemed like he was able to kind of fit into that space where a lot of people looked at younger music, they just didn't like it, or they just they weren't connected. Right,
and he's just even regardless of his biological numbers, he's a young spirit. Mm-hmm. So even now, he's still a very, very young spirit. So I think that served him as well. Yeah.
But whose idea was it to go the direction you went to when making the first album? As we were looking at, there weren't that many females doing the type of New Jack up-tempo type of stuff. We had mainly the balladeers at first before the girl groups came out in the late 90s, like the Good Girls and stuff. So whose idea was it to shape the music direction that you took?
I think that was just a natural, it was just a natural path, because when we first started, we were working with several producers and writers. Actually, it was Ed and two other guys, and they were doing the writing and producing. And they were really just feeding me, because I hadn't been in the position to write or produce music before. I was always just singing whatever, singing my part, singing whatever I needed to sing. So they were feeding me the demos, and I just wasn't doing the best job at those demos. And I knew I was a better singer than what was happening. So it was pretty frustrating to record and hear and just know this is not like this is not my best. This doesn't sound like I could sound. So, some of the other producers were kind of frustrated with me, and I could tell, and that's kind of a cycle. When you know that it's not sounding like you want it to sound, then it just starts to go downhill from there. And eventually I said, no, let me just try to write something. Because I had all of that classical training, I could hear chord progressions, in my head. I just didn't know how to get on all of the equipment and make that happen. But I could hear the chord progressions. So I tried a song and I wrote it. I could hear the chord progressions, and we just called in the different players. Ed was a drummer, so of course he could, program the beats. He could do the production part. and we tried, and so we brought in certain players. We brought in Myra Walker, who was an amazing keyboard player for a lot of my things. And I would say, no, not that bass. The bass line goes like this, and I'm singing the bass line. And, so we get it down, and that's how it came from out of necessity. You know, I became a songwriter and a co-producer. A co-songwriter and a co-producer out of necessity. And the groups that were out then, the sound that was out, there were a lot of New Jack Swing things. And I just had never been like a balladeer kind of singer. That wasn't what I leaned into anyway. So yeah, that just kind of became natural for us. After I started writing what was in my head and in my heart, it really started sounding like what I knew it could sound like. And then Ed was excited, and the other producers that we brought in to work with, they were excited because it just was taking the shape that it was meant to have in the first place. So
what came first? Was it the single Heart Donor, or did they just release the album straight out the Bat Atlantic?
The single, we released, oh my goodness. We released, I'm blanking.
I'm just looking at the audio of your discography, that's all. And it says Heart Donor seemed to come out before If She Knew. I don't know if that's true.
No. If She Knew was first.
Right.
If She Knew was first. Yes. Thank you. I was blanking. I was trying to think of If She Knew. If She Knew was first. And Heart Donor, which many people called Hot Donut. I thought that's what I was saying. I was like,
Oh, goodness.
I need a hot donut to save my life. Okay. But, yeah, Heart Donor came after that. Yes.
Wow. I love both them singles, you know. Absolutely love both them singles to death.
Thank you, Stevie.
Yeah. So the other thing too is that we noticed that you spelled your name without the E, and then everywhere else there's with the E, and so if
So what happened there, huh?
Yeah.
There's a funny story behind that.
Okay.
So we started with the E on the first project, and I would get into a city to do a show, and we're listening on the radio, and we hear, the station announcing the show, and I'm so excited because, this is new to me. I'm getting used to hearing your song on the radio. That I don't think I ever got used to that. That was always exciting for me, and hearing them announce a show. And so I would hear that and I'd be so excited. And then they'd call me Annie G. And that would just hurt my feelings because how do you call me Annie G? So we figured to drop the E on the next project would help that. And it did. So they didn't continue to call me, to mispronounce Ann by calling me Annie G. So I kept it Ann G from then on, ANN.
Okay. Yeah, but it is hard to. I mean, I think when you first came out in those days, you have your name and it's about who getting the presenters, the promoters calling your name. In a day where everything is searchable, when you're searching Ann and G, it's like, it's when that's where it becomes the challenge then.
Yeah.
But the thing you mentioned is that you decided to write because you weren't feeling what they were presenting to you, and you started to have your own ideas. At this point, did you know the difference between writing, publishing, and when you're writing and you're just writing and you're like, I'll sing it, but who takes away the lion's share of my work?
Yeah, no, I had no idea how any of that worked. But I learned pretty quickly when the label started putting me, one of the things back then, and it's not so much a thing now, but back then the producer, who the producer was on the project was a big deal. So producer names could get you played at the station or ignored at the station, depending on who the producer was.
Okay.
And so after a while, one of the strategies of the label was to put me with producers who had a name. And I was used to my situation with Ed, and I felt like we were doing a good job. And even one of the producers that they tried to put us with, or who ended up producing one of the records, I won't go into who that was, but this guy asked for the files that we had already created so that he could manipulate those files and work with those files and maybe like insert other sounds into those files. So I knew that didn't feel right because he was going to be called the producer, but it was for his name, and we had done all the work for the structure of that. So I learned, what was called, I had to learn through that situation, what was called producing, what was called writing, where those lines, and sometimes they were blurred lines, but it hit me because certain things didn't feel right. So I had to learn because I wanted to understand. I'm going, wait. So he's the producer and we already did the work, and he wants our work, all of our files, so they can call him the producer. Help me, please. So yeah, I had to learn all of that for sure.
I mean, it was. I think Teddy was probably one of the big names who, especially if it's New Jack, where if you had his name on it, everyone was going to be interested.
Yes.
And I'm sure there were other producers around that time, Marley Marl, Kashif and Jimmy and Terry and LA and Babyface and stuff. And all of a sudden, but Teddy probably started, but then all of a sudden people were buying records because of the producers.
Right.
And labels were like, okay, we need to get their name on it because this is how we're going to market it.
Yes.
Which is a disappointment because one of the things I loved about the 70s and the 80s is where artists were allowed to grow. And, there was, you go gold and that's like, wow, that's great. They weren't spending too much money up front. And there was a lot of working, and Sheldon, and you probably can say better, but it seems as if you had a chance to take your time and not be pushed, which is a disappointment in what they were trying to do in your situation. But how did you guys counter that?
Well, with a poor relationship with the record label. So when you go against the grain, it often doesn't work out in your favor. And that was pretty much what happened with my label. It just, I will admit I didn't play politics very well. I guess I was the same person who said no to that other recording deal. So yeah, you have to learn. Once I was in the situation, I think had I been either older or just more mature, I might have known better how to manipulate that situation. But as a younger person, it was more raw for me. It was more, this is wrong, this is unfair, and I'm calling out you as the person who, this has made this decision, and how could you, and this is my work, and that kind of thing. And that didn't go very well for me. So, yeah.
Wow. Just before we continue, DJ Blessed B asks, could you ask Angie if her song Your Eyes Say It was inspired by I Like by Guy?
Absolutely.
You see that record, it wasn't a single, but it picked up a lot of radio play, especially over here in the UK as well.
What's that, Stevie?
That track, that album cut, didn't get released as a single, but it picked up a lot of radio on like soul shows. The DJs
really?
played that. It was like a really good choice album cut, probably because it did sound like I like.
Yes.
It's still a good track in its own right.
Yeah, thank you. It was definitely very much inspired by that song, but their choreographer was my choreographer. Thank you, DJ Blessed. Their choreographer was my choreographer, and through him, I found out that they knew about the song and they just thought it was cool and was funny, that I was so very closely inspired by their song. And they didn't have a problem with it. So I was like, okay, good.
I mean, how do you feel about that song now? Because I feel, because you're at the moment, you're on Instagram, you're still making new music, you've got a younger audience there. I always feel you could reinterpret that song in a different style to today. And I think it would work, you know.
Yeah, that's interesting. I do want to go back and revisit some of my music. Yeah, I hadn't thought about revisiting that one though, but that's something to consider for sure.
Was there any other video we've seen If She Knew on YouTube? Did you record any other videos from the first album?
Not from the first album. From the second album, I did Hassle Free. And
I'm amazed you didn't do Heart Donor, you know, amazed because that got the remix. There's a load of remixes of it. So they obviously had a budget for it.
Yeah, we didn't do Heart Donor. And I don't know why. I don't remember why we didn't do the video for Heart Donor. It may have been a budget thing. I don't remember. Yeah, production was such a big budget hog back then. And videos too were terrible. We're now, because digital stuff is so accessible and everybody has a camera and everybody's a videographer and videos are so downscaled now. But back then a video was crazy expensive. So it was probably a budget thing. I don't remember, but I would imagine.
I mean, the other thing I found back then was trying to actually get a physical copy of your album. Obviously, it was before internet, so I was relying on my local import shop to get your album in. But I first came across you. There was a magazine called Blues and Soul at the time. You know, it's and I think they did an album review of you in there. I don't know what edition it is, but I used to. There was a section for pen pals. This is how we used to communicate with music lovers. And you'd end up writing to pen pals who were into the same music as you. And I used to send people tapes. They'd send me back tapes. And I remember getting this cassette tape once with about 5 tracks of Angie on it. And I didn't even know who you was. And I thought, who is this? Who is this artist called Angie? And it took me about 2 years to finally, after that, to get a physical copy of your first album, you know. Your second CD actually came. I think, you know, when records get deleted after, like, say they're out for about a year, then the record company deletes and puts a hole through them. Yeah. There was like thousands of copies of your second album shipped over here as deletions, and that's how I found your second CD. We just couldn't find them.
Wow.
I don't know whether it's due to promotion or they just wouldn't release them in the UK, but yeah, that's how I found your records back then, you know.
That is a cool story.
You know.
Through pen pals, huh?
Through pen pal, I got a cassette. I've still got the tape somewhere, and it's like 5 tracks from your first album on it. And I was searching for years and I found it in a second-hand store. Thought, here's the Angie album. Finally, you know.
Stevie, that just warms my heart. I appreciate you keeping the faith and continuing to look for that album.
I always ask artists, do you actually have copies of your own albums?
My mother does. I do not. I actually have, and I don't remember how I got them digitally. But because I wouldn't earn from them anyway because of the record company and all the recouping, and it's so super hard for an artist to recoup anyway. The only way I would have made money from that is through airplay and through shows and merchandise and stuff like that. But since I wouldn't get anything from the records, I digitally put them on SoundCloud for free. So they're on SoundCloud, both albums on I have SoundCloud links on my website.
And that's pretty good, because there are a lot of people who are listening to your music on YouTube, and they're looking for that music on all of this streaming platforms. They're looking for it, and they're so excited. They're like, I had this on cassette, and they disappeared, and I've been looking for this song for like 10 years, and so they're really, If you go back, if you look at your songs on YouTube, and you look at the fans and the listeners, they're all on the hunt for all your music.
Oh, that makes me feel so good. I can't believe that after all this time.
Your first album, actually, on CD and LP, I don't know if you've checked on Discogs or eBay, the price, it's held up its price. It's not cheap to get a copy anymore.
Wow.
Probably because they're all disappearing, unfortunately,
Yeah, they never, because it's been so long, they don't even have, the label wouldn't have it on any digital platform or anything. So that's why I made it available, since, they weren't going to make it available anyway. So may as well be out there somewhere.
But what was it like being on Atlantic? Because I do hear missed messages from artists who were signed to Atlantic, where they
what was the question?
No, what was it like being an artist on Atlantic? Because some of the guests who I've interviewed who have been on Atlantic give mixed messages about how well they were when it came to promoting Black music after towards the later 80s and 90s. I mean, I think so. For yourself, how did you find the experience out there?
With promotion, it was pretty good. It really depended on, I think, your particular relationship with the label. Promotion was they were pretty good. It also depended on what they could. That was the big payola day, so that was a thing. And, they only had so many spots, and it depended on how many of the top spots they needed. Okay, I'll bring, my major artist in to do your show if you'll play this Angie record. So it was that kind of thing. And my guy in the Southeast region, I would go around and, different radio stations and do their shows and do, just the whole PR run. He was excellent. So they had a pretty good promotions department. But again, it worked, I think, according to your relationship with the label. If they loved you and things were going great and they wanted to promote your record and they wanted to sacrifice and make those exchanges that they had to make, or give that guy. I remember my guy used to bring steaks and sodas to the station guys and gifts for the station guys' wives. So it depended. If they loved you and things were going great, then they would do that for you. But it was all about sacrifice and exchange. What can you do? What can we exchange to get this artist who is not this, one of the top charting artists on your list.
Did the label tell you what's successful? Oh, go ahead, Sheldon.
I have a question about budgets, because you're on Atlantic at the time where you've got like Levert. Levert is like one of the big R&B groups at the time. So Is it more so, because it seems like everything you were doing, you and Eddie, you guys were doing this in-house apart from the label. But when you look at all of the budgets, was it more like a situation where you had to wait your turn as far as release dates because of everyone else that was out or get ready to come out before you?
Definitely, there was definitely a priority situation. Definitely. And I think that priority situation had to do with the fact that they knew that there were only so many slots that they were going to be able to, there's only so many slots on the PD's list. So is it going to be Angie? Is it going to be Mickey Howard? Is it going to be Levert? Like, do they owe us enough favors to put Levert and Angie on this week? Because we're not going to pick Angie over Levert. Like, that's what we're not going to do. So do they owe us enough to get them both on? Or have we had our run with this Levert single and we're good with that one and that's on the move, and now we can put this Angie in? So yeah, it was definitely a thing of timing and priorities.
You said on the you said you weren't really about singing ballads, or you wanted to sing more up-tempo tracks, but on that first album there is a couple of gems on there. Love at Dawn, that is an absolute gem.
Thank you.
Do you remember recording that record?
Do I what now?
Do you actually even remember recording that record and how you felt about it?
Yes, I remember doing that record. That was in fact, that's the one that starts with the French, right? Yes. And we called Ed's, I think at the time, there was a relative, I think her name was Devry, and she did the French part at the beginning of that song for us. I think I was going to try to learn it, and it just wasn't working out the way. So we were like, let's just have somebody do it. It's okay if it's somebody different. So yeah, she did the voice, the French part. Yes, I remember doing that song. I still love that song.
You know, it's funny about Ballads, because I think one of the most outstanding records you did wasn't even on either of your albums. It was a duet called Let's Get Blue with Tim Owens. Tell us about that one.
Oh,
that is an outstanding record.
Thank you. That is hilarious I love the song. The experience was amazingly terrible. But the song turned out great.
Oh, what a song.
Okay. I don't sing at the time. Now I do. I'm very comfortable with falsetto live. But that song is a lot of falsetto. And the producer was not somebody who was very comfortable to work with. Probably a really nice person in regular life, but was not fun to work with in the studio. And when doing something that's already uncomfortable, which was singing so much falsetto, and working with this particular producer who was just, I can't remember what about him was so terribly uncomfortable, but it was, okay, so I'll tell the story. So I was terribly uncomfortable, almost to the point of tears. I was that uncomfortable with this producer. So we finished the recording, and they mixed it and everything. And then years later, many years later, my daughters were recording artists. They did this song. We found this song that we liked, and we were in LA. Actually, I went to LA to record that song. I didn't live in LA at the time. So fast forward to many years later, I lived in LA. My daughters were recording artists, and we went to this producer's house to do this song. Something about this producer was familiar, and then the session became uncomfortable. And it snapped for me. This was the same guy.
Wow. That's just coincidence.
Same guy. And I thought, oh my goodness. And they were uncomfortable as well. The session wasn't going well. They were uncomfortable. And it occurred to me. And I said, did you do a record with? And he went, oh yes, yep. So I was just like, many years later, same guy, same thing. Yeah. So yeah, that was a terrible experience, but I love the record.
What about Tim Owens? What do you remember about him?
What do I remember about him?
About Tim, because he was on Atlantic as well. He recorded one album for Atlantic.
Yeah, I only had that one experience with Tim. Somebody, and I don't even know if, I'm trying to remember if he was there. Somehow I remember meeting him. So maybe he was there. But somebody told me about 4 years ago that I think they met him in an Uber or something, and they ended up talking about me, and he said he told the friend to tell me hello. And I thought, oh my goodness, what a flash from the past.
I'm gonna have to put you to task here, Anne, because you just called out a great producer here. I know the producer you're talking about. And he's amazing. Guys, come on. Can we say his name?
Hey, we've got to.
If I say his name to you guys, you're gonna be like, what?
Yeah.
Derek Bramble, he worked with Jackie Graham in the 80s.
Yeah, I dare not call his name.
He's very
good.
Producer.
Very good, but yeah.
Layla Hathaway, worked with Layla Hathaway as well.
Oh yeah, I know you.
Heaven knows. Layla Hathaway. You know, Jackie Graham, Round and Round. Record that.
See, everybody's going to know what
was going on.
Everybody's running to Google right now.
Yeah. Oh my goodness, TV.
Yeah.
We better move on then. Carry on, Andy. Carry on.
Here's a credit to him though. All those years later, I find a song, and of all the songs in the world to find that we love, it's another song from this guy. So he's obviously a great songwriter, producer. But yeah, he was.
But difficult to work with.
Yeah, I mean, but I have heard.
Did he push you though vocally? Is that why he was hard to work with? Did he want every last strain out of your voice?
You know what it is? I think I'm glad you said that, because it took me back now to recall more specifically. He was looking for something that I believe was maybe at that time limited. So I think he was trying to get something that wasn't there. In his mind, it was a flavor or something that he had, like a predisposed notion that he had. And when you're working with artists, because I've done so much vocal production since then of other artists, when you have a demo that you send them, it's easy to get demo-itis and to go, okay, so it's going to sound like this when I'm done. But you send it to them, and they're going to do what they do with it. Now, you want to pull out their best, but it's their best that you're looking to pull out, not what you sent them, because they're not the person that you sent, who did the demo. But you've got, sometimes producers, we can get stuck. The demo-itis is what we call it. You get this one sound stuck in your head, and it's got to turn out like that. 9 times out of 10, it's not. So you you adapt. And I don't think he cares for adapting very much, because what he sends you in the first place is good. It's very good. It's great. And that's what he wants to hear, that thing that he sent you. So it's important for vocal producers to go, okay, so what are the strengths in this artist that I'm listening to? And let's make it an amazing version of this artist and this artist styles and this artist vibe. So I think that same thing was happening with my daughters when they were doing their recording. It should have sounded to him, it should have sounded like the original demo. And they didn't sing like that. They had a different style, and that was bothering him. And you can tell when something bothers him. So I think that's also a part of it. He will show his irritation. Yeah.
I thought he got greatness on that record, though, but that's just my opinion.
Thank you. I love the record. I do love the record.
Oh, I'm going to say, if you've not heard it for years, but I just think it's a great, just an amazing record,
Thank you. Thank you.
Yeah, I've heard Shantae Moore was mention how Jimmy pushed her when she had to record. Patti LaBelle talked about how Teddy, when they worked together, and at the time they don't appreciate the friction in the studio, and then sometimes you might need one of the co-producers that does the vocal recording because it's just not working out. But you hear the stories because the producer has something in their ear that they just needed to get out, and even Coco was on. Coco, when we were speaking to them, hated Weak and didn't like the way that Brian wanted them to sing it, and and it's almost like, well, let me sing it this way. It's like, no, this isn't how I want the song to come out. And so, so it's not uncommon. Even if we know, I'm sure by now everyone would have known the producer, but it's not uncommon. It's just the creative people they Elder Barge said that Quincy Jones had him all night trying to sing that, do the demo version of Secret Garden, and then he said, okay, when can I do the actual voice? He said, no, it's fine. We've got the demo version, which is perfect. And El wasn't happy about that, but he producers have a different way of working, and you have to trust the finished article at the end of the day.
Yep. Yeah. I can respect that, because there are definitely so many examples of that I've heard where artists just, maybe hated the performance that they did, or hated the record, even hated the song, just did not want to record this particular song. And it turns out to be their biggest hit. So I can respect it. It's just difficult to go through.
What was the name of the girl group? You say your daughter was in a girl group?
Actually, they are twins, and they were called Axis at the time, AXIZ. And actually, they broke up the following year, and Troy, one of the twins, went on to sign with Def Jam, and now is an independent artist.
Wow.
Yeah.
Oh. They mentioned about when you weren't happy with how when the label first, Atlantic first got the producer to remix your track and take on the producer stuff. And when I spoke with Nikki Howard, she talked about how the challenges of being a female in the music industry, especially when she came out, there's probably a little bit more protection for female artists now, but what was it like? I mean, especially coming through the 80s, just having a voice and not being, especially as a Black woman, having a voice and actually not being taken seriously, or the challenges.
Yeah, I think it was very different. It was very different in that now just so many things wouldn't have been done that way. The fact that I spoke up at all was something that was not expected. You just did not do that, especially a female artist. I think from a male artist, it would have been respected differently, but it was just absurd for me to make a complaint like that. Things, even in other respects, like I remember being out on the road with my promotions guy, who was excellent with what he did. But at one point, there was a program director who was given the phone number to my hotel room. I was just like, no, just no. But, you know, being put in those weird positions is something I think would not happen today because, you know, we're more sensitive to things like that. And it's something nobody wants to be caught doing. Even if they, in their spirit, they're okay with doing it. They don't want to be called out for that or caught, you know, doing things like that. It was a very different day. It was a very different day for females, period, I think. Yeah.
I have a question about your balladry, because obviously it's ironic that you said that at that time you preferred the up-tempo music compared to the ballads. But, you know, when I go back and listen to the ballads, specifically Love at Dawn, there is something that exists that is not happening with the artists, the younger artists in that time period that we would hear later. The way I see it, your phrasing, your delivery, your emotion, the whole entire mastery of the delivery is something we wouldn't see later. You know, Mariah Carey, Tamia, you know, that approach that people, those artists that people love so much, I believe you kind of introduce a lot of those vocal qualities as a female vocalist in that time. So can you share your approach to the balladry?
You guys are coming up with some great questions tonight, by the way, you two. Amazing.
Yes,
I'm blown away here. She's blown away.
yes, definitely not the typical, you know, definitely not the typical questions. And I've been asked questions for many, 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 many years. So excellent. My approach to the ballads. You know, I think my approach to the ballads was so layered. There was the producer that I had learned to be. In producing, I had learned how all of the different tracks interact with each other makes the total sound, right? So for me, as I'm doing a ballad, this also is a layer of the sound that needs to interact. And at this point, a ballad gets to breathe more. So, you know, you've got these longer notes and you're able to more intentionally, I think, layer them and make the things happen together. You have more time to do that. So I enjoyed doing that. That was part of the art for me, was to make this happen when that happened, and those things happen, you know, either rise or fall together or counter purposefully, those kinds of things. Lyrically, the lyrics were always important to me. It's funny, I don't listen to lyrics a lot now because I don't think certain artists' lyrics I listen to, and other types of music, maybe I don't listen to the lyrics as much because I think it's more the syncopation for them than it is the lyric. And I can still appreciate the art in their syncopation because it's magical sometimes. But in the ballads, yes, the layering was important for me. The part of my classical training where the crescendos, the decrescendos, the colors, I always imagined that I was playing a violin. It was, you know, play the violin, you know, push and pull and, you know, play this violin. And that was how I liked to deliver a vocal. And then of course the riffs were fun for me. That was just a part of, you know, the little dressing that I enjoyed doing. But yeah, I think I approached it more like an instrument. An instrument and a layer. So I enjoyed that so much. I didn't do it often, and I think that was part of it, that it wasn't something that I got the chance to do much in the direction that we were going. Not that I wanted to change directions, but it just, you know, it didn't go with everything. So I was like, well, let me just take this opportunity to do this thing this way. So, yeah.
In 91, after you released From the Heart, So by that time, In Vogue is out. We the industry we're getting a lot more females. I think Ex-Girlfriend are coming out. We had Eternal here, so we've got a number of girl groups coming out. What was your thought about? Okay, this is second album, the kind of career that you were expecting, even though probably Atlantic and you weren't on the same page. What were you expecting?
At that point, honestly, by the time the record came out, we were really not on good terms.
Wow.
The label and I. One of the things I think that had really, there were several things that, me speaking up about, production and that kind of thing. Also, there was an incident where, I don't know if you guys remember the movie, I think it was Mo Better Blues. Yeah. So I was sent that script as part of marketing for me. There was interest in me doing the female that, well,
So
I don't know.
You were going to sing Harlem Blues, Cindy Williams? You were going to sing that?
Right. I was going to be that character, or that was up for consideration.
You would have killed that record. Oh my God.
But I don't know if you remember all the visuals in that movie.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
So,
yeah.
So at first I went to read. I think I went to read for the movie. And then when I got back, I thought more about it and just said, I can't do it. I'm not going to be able to look back at that visual. I'm not going to be able to do that.
But in hindsight, the person who did that role, she talked about later on as years went on, it wasn't a great experience for her either.
Really?
Yes.
I didn't see that.
Mm-hmm. Later on, we're talking about recent years. In recent
Really?
years. Yeah.
I'll have to look that up now. Yeah, I want to look that up because that made a lot of people like go, oh, we were like, that was going to be great for our marketing for you, and you are going to pass up such a great opportunity. How dare you? Who do you think you are? And that didn't go over very well. So with things like that, I remember when the second record came out, they didn't even, let me see. The second record from the project, I think, was Get a Life. And they were so irritated with me by that time that they didn't even let me pick the photo that went on the single thing. I saw it after they had already done it. And it was like, they didn't, like, no heads up, no proof, no nothing, just it's in print. Here you go. So I knew it was a done deal by then. So yeah.
On the second album, though, there was a definite growth and almost, like I say, a slight change in image. He was moving away from like the pop element of the first album.
Yeah.
There was still New Jack in it, but it felt like you were refining more of an R&B sound on the album.
Yes. There was definitely growth and movement, and it felt. It just felt very natural to do, to go there. And I think on Hassle Free, I know what it was. There was, at that point, we had a lot of freedom, and we were kind of in our own world. Ed and I.
Your mic's going a bit fuzzy, Anne.
What's that now?
Okay, it's better now.
Mic went a bit fuzzy there. But
it's fine. It's fine now.
Okay, I got fuzzy. So Ed and I were in our own world, and the label was coming in to check on us. I remember the VP came to our house, and we had built our studio in the house at that time. So we were not in the recording studio at 2560 recording a lot. We were just kind of exploring. And that felt pretty good. But at the same time, there's that challenge of stay current, explore and do different things, but you got to keep some familiarity in terms of the sound, you know, running in the undercurrent. So that was always a challenge for us, but just kind of growing was fun, and we felt like it was time to do that, and you know, that's how you change things. But again, the challenge of staying current, and that was a big deal back then. You always got to give them something that's commercial. That was a part of the whole thing. You got to stay commercial. Is it commercial enough? So.
Was Get a Life a bit more lyrically? Was that you try to be conscious, or what was the message behind that record?
Oh, so there were some personal things going on at that time, and there was a personal situation where, yeah, there was kind of a some personal things, personal social situation, and it was really kind of like subtweeting. Yeah.
It's interesting because the production on that record was more what was coming out, sounding like what was coming out of the UK at the time, the street soul, the more soul to soul sounding vibe to it.
Loved those groups. Loved that time. Ooh, those groups. I loved them so much. I remember just thinking that they had this, even now to me, when I think about those groups, there was just a magic that you couldn't spell out or put into words. It was just like a God thing to me. It was so magical and powerful, and I love them.
I think it was the Caribbean, the Caribbean influence what we have in this country at the time. And the bass, there was a lot more bass, you know, and I think that came through on the records more.
Yeah, those records, they had a lot of, at that time, it seemed like the music going on in America, it was kind of trendy.
Right.
And Soul to Soul, the Young Disciples, and all of those groups like that, they were just taking it back to that classical R&B sound. But like you said, the Caribbean flavor was there.
Yes.
And I remember when Soul to Soul dropped, it was just right in the middle of New Jack Swing, and people just lost their minds because you had the string arrangements, you had this whole vibe.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes. We listened to a lot of that, like a lot of that. And I loved it so much. Oh my goodness. Now I gotta go listen to some. You got me excited about this.
I do want to ask you about what one track on the album, which I think is a real gem. Again, it did pick up quite a lot of plays on the soul radio circuit here. One Step Closer to Heaven.
Oh yes.
It's like a ballady, mid-tempo-y. I think that stood the test of time, that record.
Thank you. Now you're going to make me go back and listen to the whole record.
It's just what, you know, when you go back to an album and you think, well, you know, you'll be listening, especially it's 30 years old, and you think, oh, well, I'm not sure about that now. It's not really. But then you'll get a few. It's like, well, that really has stood the test of time. And I think that was what. And Get a Life, you know what I mean? I think that has as well, you know?
Yeah, Get a Life was definitely, I remember, even like, you can hear it especially in the drums. Yeah. We really listened to a lot of that, like Soul to Soul. What were the other groups? There was
a lot of one. There was a lot of one dance wonders there doing that sound.
Young Disciples. It was quite
Loose
a few.
Ends, obviously. Loose Ends tried it.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. We listened to that, and we would like listen and go, okay, don't do the exact beat, but
because they had that drum shuffle.
Ralph Tresvant did it on Sensitivity. That was Jammer Lewis's interpretation of Soul to Soul, really.
They had that drum shuffle.
Yes.
Yeah,
I got to pull it back out right after this.
So Anne, after From My Heart, did you and Atlantic have a conversation? Did they say, okay, you know, it's not working out, we need to find out? I don't know how it's like, because
it's so bluntly there, Namdi.
No, because you guys have, you know, you didn't do the Mo Better Blues, you're trying to, you're trying to talk out as a woman, and we don't do that in the 80s. And so, I just wondered, does somebody come and have a conversation, or is it like,
do my giggles give it away? There was no conversation. There were not conversations. Yeah. So their way of doing business, and the way I think kind of generally in the industry back then, because I remember, several, it was just kind of the expectation. When things were uncomfortable, it's easier not to, to just ghost somebody, just the natural things that people do. Okay, I'm just gonna avoid you. I'm not gonna talk to you, that kind of thing. And that happened a lot back then. There was just like, oh, what happened? Well, I haven't heard from them. I can't get so-and-so on the phone. At one point, I remember my attorney told me not to take calls from them. The VP was like, he told you not to call me. So it was just like, it was that kind of, weirdness that was business. Like business was actually handled like that. So eventually I remember just sending a letter to legal to say, this is me officially wanting to get a letter from you to say we're good. And they sent me that letter. So yeah, that was it.
I have a question for you, because you're at that time in Atlantic, there aren't that many female artists on the R&B side on Atlantic. So you would think that this particular executive, they will remain nameless, but you would think that being who they were, they would champion female artists.
Wow. But that's hard to not identify. That particular executive was very powerful and accustomed to people not countering anything that that was on the table, that was at play. Whatever that particular executive's plan was, whatever that particular executive said, everyone knew not to cross that particular executive.
Yeah, and I've heard stories that they just wash their hands of you, just back away. Yeah,
just knew not to cross that. Yes, yeah, you didn't cross that executive. That was an absolute no. The stories that I heard just were like, sometimes there were like overturned, tables, like, yeah, you just.
Yeah, but unfortunately, that she was the downfall of In Vogue, because we spent 2.5 hours with Dawn Robinson, and Dawn did not hold it back to say, look, man, we went head to head, and she didn't like it, and then she just said, well, you're out. When they had the biggest hit, Don't Let Go, and it destroyed one of the biggest. They could have been bigger than anyone, and it is disappointing. Not just that it's a female, but it's a Black female, and you would think that there was a sense of let's support one another.
Put it all out there, didn't he?
And then the tables overturned. I already know.
I mean, so there's the DJ Clark Kent, when he did an interview recently, and he was hired by this executive to come to do A&R. And he said that when he was sitting down and artists came through, he looked at the contract and said, well, this isn't great. And she said, it's not our job to tell them the business. So they sign it. If they don't do their homework, then that's on them. And that was what he was instructed by this executive to do. He was open and on it. And so he said he had to learn, he would tell them behind the, go back and start looking at stuff, but he was pushed by it. So, as I said, and the executive is still making waves. The executive is still in charge of Michael Jackson's old label. So
exactly, and that executive went to Wharton Business School. So
Yeah.
the whole situation. A lot of people had issues. A lot of issues.
Yeah, as I said, the thing that we have been doing for the past 2 years has been, listening to our artists, hearing their story, celebrating artists, and it's been for us the heartache as fans. Stevie's talking about we can't get your album, and so when we hear about all the work that you guys have been doing, and then we see the politics and all the business side that stifles creativity, it's upsetting to us because we didn't know. I mean, we up to the pandemic, we had no idea what you, apart from TLC and Tony Braxton, we had no idea what you guys were really going through. And so now to hear this stuff, so it really amplifies our disappointments with the labels, because they're businesses, but they don't treat you guys with the type of respect that they should be, just human decency. So that's why there's a little disappointment. However, one of the things I admire is the fact that you held your integrity throughout in different situations, and you didn't sell yourself out for that instant fame and success like a lot of people have done, to look back and regret. So, that's really important for those who are going to be listening, who are looking to get in the game, and think, when they got the red pill and the blue pill, and it's like, do I really want to go down that road just for that instant fame? Because it might not always turn out well.
Right.
And your spirit reflects it.
Aw.
We can feel it from your spirit that a lot of people, the music business really just shoot them up, spit them out. It really impacted them. But just from the beginning of the interview, your spirit is just, yeah.
Thank you so much. Thank you so much. I'm just, I'm grateful to have come to this point where I'm no longer that stereotypical, like I don't even have the option of being in that mainstream artist at this point in my life, right? But I still have the option of doing music because we are in the age of independent music. And I heard somebody say, and it blessed me so, that there are 7 billion people in the world. You find the people who like what you do, and that's who you do it for. That's who you appeal to. So that's what I have been about the business of doing in this internet age, where I can go directly to people who like what I do, who appreciate what I do, and I can do it the way that I want to do it and entertain people, give people messages that I think are important. And there's nothing that I have to consider except the joy of doing it. I don't have to consider, is it commercial enough? Is it this? Is it, is it going to work on today's chart? I don't care about a chart. I'm not trying to make the charts. I'm trying to make the best music that I can make that gets what I have to say across to people who that will speak to. And that's it. And I'm in this world and in this time that provides for that. I'm just so blessed to be able to do that. I'm just so grateful to be able to have come through and to have learned all the things that I've learned and to have had all the experiences that I've had, and to be here. So, and to be here in front of you guys. I appreciate you so much. I really do. And it feeds my soul to know that you guys even have heard of the music, and then to have looked for the record for 2 years. What? like that's gonna be fueling me for a long time. I'm gonna be eating off that, Stevie, for like.
It's not just me. These R&B collectors, 90s that they're still getting your record.
Yeah.
I mean, let's overall though, looking back, because we've gone through the negative sides of the industry. I just feel you was young then. You recorded 2 albums for a major label. You must have gone out and connected. What were the positives Was it a good, the music was great at the time. You must have felt something. You're out, you're doing live gigs. You must have felt great at times though.
Absolutely. Like, it was an amazing experience. I mean, how many people get to do that? How many people? I was always aware that there was a buttload of people trying to do what I had been put in the position to do. So I knew what a privilege that was. I felt like I had the talent to do it, but I also knew that there were a lot of people who were out there who had the talent to do it. But I got the privilege of doing that. So I appreciated that. It was a blast for me to be able to learn how to write and to produce. I had never been able to do that. I fell into that. Like, that was just kind of given to me. And so I was able to do that and learn how to actually produce music on all of the gear that we had. I ended up, with Ed and other producers and musicians who helped me to be able to do that, and who didn't, who weren't so power hungry that they just didn't, how some people are like, no, there's no room for you to do this because I have to shine. And I wasn't around people in our circle who were like that. So that was amazing for me. It was amazing to go and do shows and have people know the music, and like I said, to hear the song on the radio, that never got old for me. To hear the songs on the radio, to see the videos on TV, to do what was it, Video Soul with Donnie Simpson, like that was, I still remember that day. There's just so many things. I've met people over the internet who will say, oh, I was at that show that you did in Connecticut. And I'm just like, what? That was so long ago. And then in a lot of the shows I remember doing, it was just an amazing, amazing experience. And it was a very, very privileged thing to be able to do, to be on a plane every, weekend, going to do what I love to do. The funny shows, the scary shows, to get up. I always had terrible, terrible stage fright. So to be able to deal with that and even conquer that to a degree, I was still, an anxious performer. After the first 2, minutes or so, I was absolutely fine. But getting ready to go do it, it was just like, oh dear God. I remember once my dancers missed their flight.
Wow.
And so I was in the city to do the show, but I was doing a track date on up-tempo music all by myself, no dancers. And I felt like, oh, that's going to be so corny. I cannot do that. So I'm talking to the label going, it's not going to happen. I'm here. You guys got to fly me back. I'm just like, it's not going to happen. But of course, that's ridiculous. They have a relationship with the radio station. Like, this is going to happen, right? So Levert was in town for something. Wow. And they were staying in the same hotel. The label called their manager and said, call this girl and talk some sense into her and have her do this show. So he's talking to me, and I finally go, okay, I'll do it. But praise God, Ed had gotten those dancers on a different flight to another city and then gotten them a limo from that city to the city that I was performing in. And they got there right before the performance, and it went great. But just, those great memories like that, things that I know most people, just is something in their dreams, So yeah, there were amazing, amazing times. And I met musicians and other artists and producers that I'll remember, forever. So yeah.
What can we expect? What do you, so right now, anything new that you're releasing?
You've got a record out now. You have got a record. You've had several a couple over the last year anyway. Yes.
So now the music that I'm doing is completely a cappella, but it is beatboxed. So my challenge is to make all of the sounds sound like real instruments, and that is what I do. It was born out of I was managing another artist whom I'd gotten a deal on RCA Records, and she was a mainstream artist, and we were trying to do some content for her that was going to stand out amongst this slew of mainstream artists. So I did this a cappella arrangement did a couple of different a cappella arrangements, and had her go in and do the lead vocal. And that was a way of getting the different content out for her. And then I realized I enjoyed doing that. Like I was producing, but I didn't need to use any synthesizers or call anybody in or wait on another musician or any of that. It was just all the things that are in your head. You can just do it. Just, you've got a microphone, just do it. Some EQs and some, different effects to actually make it sound like the instrument. But yeah, that I got so much fulfillment out of that I decided to completely go that direction. And that's what I've been doing for the last couple of years. So I have a single out now called Butterfly Season. And there are several other works out that are done in that same style. And I call it R&B beatbox. So that's what I've been doing.
Are you touring? Doing shows? Are you doing shows?
What's that now?
Are you doing shows to support us around Atlanta?
It's funny. I just got a loop machine I've been doing shows over the internet since the pandemic thing has been, the pandemic brought about, I guess, a whole other platform of live performance. So it was lives, the internet live, IG, Instagram live performances. So I've done so many Instagram live performances, and now I have a loop machine so that I can take it to a physical live performance. And that's what I'm working on right now, to be able to do a whole show of that kind of material with this loop machine and do it live. So, yeah.
Okay.
I have a question for you.
Okay.
You started out with the autonomous independent situation before you got signed. Then you got signed, and then you went a more autocratic type situation. Now you're back on the independent side, obviously, which you love. But unfortunately, there are a lot of your peers who came through the industry machine, and that's pretty much what they know, what they're comfortable with, what they're familiar with. But there's some hesitations that they have in terms of moving forward on the independent side in the same manner that you're doing. So can you provide some advice or some insights for people looking to make that transition from that industry world to the independent space?
I would say that today it's almost more popular to go the independent route. There are some pretty big artists, pretty successful artists that are completely independent and who are refusing thus far to go with labels. So the visual has changed for me. Have I lost you guys?
No, we're here.
Here we go.
We're here.
So yeah, I think the concern with going, there are pros and cons of each. Of course, if you are huge and you have gotten there independently, and it is at that point that labels, of course, are going to be coming at you left and right. But I think today, unless you are huge and can say, I'm going to take my ball and go home, if you don't have that leverage, then a label is really a weird and scary and tentative place to be. It's a place that if you want to put all of your eggs in that basket, I think you should reconsider. Now, if you are so big, if you've gotten to the point where you have built yourself independently and you do have the leverage of saying, to a label, I'm going to take my ball and go home. Or you need to do this, that, and the other. Then it could benefit you because they have the machine. But on the other hand, if you have succeeded in making it to the point that you have the leverage, why would you give so much money to the machine? Because to get to the machine, it's going to cost so very much that, I don't know, what's the point maybe?
Now, what about the people who used to be in the machine and now they are trying to find their way back into the business, but they don't know how to navigate? So what kind of advice would you give to them as far as building the infrastructure similar to what you have, the platform, to be able to go ahead and maybe, I don't want to say reignite their career, but extend their career?
Are you saying to go back into the machine or to
No,
independently?
You've utilized social media.
They used to be in the machine,
right?
But now they want to. But they're not in the machine anymore.
Yeah.
But they want to continue to make music. They want to continue to have a career, but they don't necessarily have the infrastructure or know how to build the infrastructure that they used to have when they were in the machine.
Right.
That you have already. So how would you, if you were consulting,
okay,
one of our seasoned artists who is no longer in the machine, but they want to have a career in the industry independent, what would you say?
I would say the primary thing is to build your fan base and then go directly to them, because that's what the machine was providing. The machine was providing a way to the fan base, and now there's a direct fan base. We just have to be consistent. We have to be business minded. And it's hard to be business minded sometimes as creatives. We're not naturally business minded people. We're this one day and that another. But we have to be business minded if we expect to be able to see results from our efforts. So if you plan on, if it really is your goal to reach the people, you have to know that they're not just going to come crawling out, to you. You've got to make efforts to go. And
I've noticed a lot of artists that came, say, out of the 90s that had a bit of a name and a following have struggled with social media, to get to grips with it. And moving at times, my biggest revelation was finding you on Instagram, and I'm like, wow, you're here. I've not seen you for 30 years, but you're thriving. You're one of the few artists from that era that's actually thriving on social media.
Thank you.
I can't work out that game you're doing with all them kids. I'm looking at it, I don't know what the hell's it. It looks fun, but I have no idea what's going on here. So you've got something going there, and it's quite unique. Whatever it is you're doing, it seems to work.
Thank you. I love doing the music games. But yes, I've put a lot of effort into connecting with the people and building the fan base and reconnecting with anyone, making sure that I am as present as I can be. I do need to do better with my YouTube platform. You
found a new fan base, and like you say, you found the new fan base, and you're still appealing to people who like myself, who remember you from back then. You've got the best of both worlds, really, going on there.
Thank you. Yeah,
like I say, a lot of those artists from the 90s struggle to do that.
Yeah, it's like there are so many, like I said, 7 billion people. There are people who, like for those artists who built way bigger fan bases than I had, I think about them and I go, man, like they could really be doing it. Like you connect with those, like you had a huge fan base. This is the internet. Those people are on this internet. Like you can catch them on one of these platforms, Instagram, YouTube, like get on, Twitter, a lot of people are on.
Yeah.
Reconnect with those fans. They are out there. So reconnect with those fans and work on the new fan base. Work on the new fan base as well, because there are people who will appreciate what it is that you're doing. The music from back then, from whatever day it was, it's gone. It's cyclical. You're going to pick up some new people because it's going in a circle here. So each time it's going to go around and round. Pick up the new people, reconnect with the old people, and continue to create and provide. The reason these people are fans or supporters is because they love what you do. Do some more of it and share with them. Like it's not where we're just giving or, making a little thing and just put it there and you don't, you're not getting feedback. You're able to interact with the fan base now. They can feel you. You can feel them. It's more personal now. So I think it's easy. It's easier to connect with your fan base because there's no middleman. The record label doesn't determine how big or small your fan base is. Now you don't have to wait on whether or not Levert is more important than you to get in front of your fan base. You can get out there and connect with them and actually talk with them if you don't have the ego. Now that one is hard to overcome. Been on a label and you're used to being like the artist. And back then, talking to people wasn't something that big artists did. And everybody, regardless of whether you were a big artist, it was your goal to be the big artist, right? So we had to be, you were in that mind frame. I'm a star, I'm going to be a star, I'm going to act like a star. And stars don't communicate with people on the internet. Like you see that it took a long time for people like Janet Jackson to get on Instagram and start, communicating like that because she's a big star. And that just wasn't what we did. I was never a big star like that. That wasn't what the mind frame of a star was, not to communicate with people like that on a personal level. But that's what it is now. We're communicating on a personal level. The people now, you've got your Cardi B's on Instagram, doing a live with no makeup on. Her kids are everywhere. And it's just, it's a normal person. You're just a regular person. And that's the reality of it. You're just a regular person. You're a person just like everybody else. So now we have to do that. You have to get with the times and communicate with people on that level. You really are regular. You always been a regular person. Janet Jackson's a regular person, So it does take a different mind frame and persistence. Yeah.
I see you with Wanye. Well, is it one Wednesdays? What is that a regular thing or is that a one-off or what?
So,
Wanye from Boys to Men, guys.
Yes, he did 2 seasons of that show. And the first season I watched and really enjoyed that. And that was a thing for me because I think a little bit of that was maybe a little ego. It's a contest. It's a, like an American Idol kind of, it's a singing contest. And for me, it was like, you've been a signed major label artist and you're going to get in a singing contest, like just on the internet. And I thought, yeah, because a lot of those people have never heard anything that most of those people have never heard anything that you've done. These are kids and younger people. So it was a way for me of expanding my audience and getting out of my comfort zone. So once I did it, I absolutely loved it. Met so many people that I would not otherwise have met, and got over a lot of the anxiety that I had of being, an anxious singer. Period. So it was a great experience. It was a great experience. Yeah.
Wow. I mean, and we've kept you for a long time, and we're really appreciative of your time.
Just going to say, Namdi, I've just got a DM from Derek Bramble saying he wants to come on the podcast in 2 weeks. I'm kidding. I'm just joking.
Stevie.
There you go.
That's hilarious. Oh, I should actually have that conversation with him now.
The cat's out the bag, you know.
What's that, Sheldon?
He said the cat's out the bag.
The cat's out the bag, you know.
Yep.
No, but and as we finish, we always like to find out from our guests. I mean, what would be your top 5 favorite songs from any artist, not your own, just some of your favorite top 5 songs that would be in your if you had a playlist of top 5.
Any Derek Bramble produced songs in there?
And actually, if I could listen to a list, I would probably love most of the things that he has done. The truth of the matter. Wouldn't like to be the artist on the other end of the recording, but would love to hear it. Let's see, favorite songs. It's always, when I'm asked questions like that, everything just goes right out of my head. But I listen to a lot of, it's funny, I'm not going to be able to name any of her songs, but I absolutely love Jhené Aiko. The last album has been just so amazing. It was so amazing to me. But songs in particular.
Funny, I've got all her albums and I still can't name one song. But...
Really? Okay, so it's not just me.
It's a vibe, innit? You know.
Yeah.
Put it on, it's a vibe, you know.
Yeah.
But I can't name any of the songs.
That's right. It's a vibe.
It's very mood driven, not song driven. So
yes.
It's like, yeah.
Thank you. I feel better.
Yeah. You're not the only one.
Okay, because I always list her because I love that vibe. I love the sound, but the songs I can never name. And I always feel really crazy for enjoying the artist so much, but not being able to list one song.
You're not the only one.
Let's hope she doesn't see this episode. or any of the fans, what's that word? Stand now. Dear me.
But the thing is, she really is one of my favorites.
Oh, she's good, very good.
She's one of my favorites. So that is absolutely to her credit. I love listening to those songs. I just don't know what they are. So let's see. What songs can I list? Oh my goodness.
I don't even know if we should go back to when we used to talk about what's your top song ever, because that's probably was easier for most guests to tell us their favorite song ever.
Yeah, when I ask that question, they just go, psh, and then when I disconnect, I'm going, oh yeah, this one and that one and that and that. Yeah,
so what were your all-time favorite song then? So that's probably easier then, because at least you probably
favorite songs.
Yeah.
Okay. All-time favorite songs. All-time favorite songs. Okay. Definitely Back to Life. Ooh. And Karen White's The Way You Love Me.
Okay.
Superwoman. Oh, am I limited to 5? Okay, 5. Okay, I'm gonna keep it to 5. Those 3. And then oh my goodness. Like harmony songs. I loved the Boys to Men. Which one is it? End of the Road. Is that one of my top 5? Maybe. Right now it is. While I can think of songs.
Can you remember any albums you went out and bought in the past? Any records or CDs? Did you ever do that? Did you go out and buy an album?
I'm going to take you guys so far back. I don't know if you'll go this far back with me.
Sheldon probably will. He's our historian here. No, he's our historian. So he's
Mr. Geriatric. Okay, I got you.
Yeah, not age. He's don't worry.
Natalie Cole.
Which one?
The Peebo Bryson and Natalie Cole album.
You read out. Yeah, I think it's Born
Yes.
to Love, Born to Love, and all that is on there. Right.
Yes. What was the song that the girl Snow Allegra does it now? It's
Sade, or not Sade.
no, there's a song on that duet album that Snow Allegra does. I'm not going to be able to think about it, but think of it because I'm trying to think of it. But yeah, that album was amazing.
Bobby Caldwell.
What's that?
I'm thinking the Snow Allegra. She covered Bobby Caldwell recently, didn't she?
I love Snow Allegra.
Yeah.
I love her. Yes. There's a song that I said, I love the Jasmine Sullivan, the latest Jasmine Sullivan album. Not the lyrics, but everything else about it.
Wow.
I love. Jasmine Sullivan is amazing to me. Her feel, the melody, of course, her skill, but the lyrics are not my thing. Everything else, though, she's just to me.
It's interesting that you mentioned about the lyrics, because one of the things that we've noticed is when we've spoken to R&B artists now, they say the men aren't talking about love, they're not singing about love, they're singing about material stuff and not courting women. Then the women are singing, but they're talking about either cheating or bad relationships. So when you were saying about the lyrics, is it the fact that this content isn't about, when we were getting good love songs and good relationship songs? Are you seeing that missing from today's female artists? They seem to be a little bit too X-rated and no boundaries and no.
Yeah, I don't consider myself a prude, but for me there's a level of self-respect that I think people are used to, that a lot of female artists have settled for and decided, I accept this, so I'm not disrespecting myself, if that makes any sense. Yeah. So like the bar is lower for us all. So so this is normal. And I just refuse to accept that as normal, because I think that later, when maybe what is in front of their faces, maybe when they are not so entrenched in maybe that particular lifestyle, or maybe making a record that is commercial enough and in line with what is with everything else that's out there, that they will have a chance to sit back and go, wait, no, what was I thinking? Why would I call myself that in a song? Why would I celebrate that? That's not.
I know it's about. Yes, that's the name of the album. That's the name of the album. I know exactly what you're talking about.
What's that?
The Jasmine Sullivan.
Yes.
I got you. Yes.
Yeah. But I love her skill set is bananas, and the melodies are crazy, but the lyrics are just, she's settling to me, and it makes me sad. But I know she wouldn't. Of course, she wouldn't say that. And to each his own, I suppose.
Well, yeah, they're driven by the fact that the female hip hop artists are making millions by selling that type of lyrics and persona, and that's what's more popular now. So if you can't beat them, you need to join them, and unfortunately, that is the sad reality of our female artists and even male artists.
That was a rough period, because she elected to retire from the industry a few years ago because she was very drained. She didn't see herself gaining any traction. So she retired for a few years. But when she came back with that one particular album that you spoke of, she won an award. So it goes back. It's the artist or the fan. you know?
The demand for it, right?
Yeah.
Supply and demand. It's unfortunate because then it is a cycle, because then that artist has the power and the influence to feed that message to somebody who might not have been on that page, but now it's such a popular position that, hey, maybe I just need to get with that concept. So maybe that thinking is the way to be and the way to think. It's unfortunate to me.
And the strange thing is that a lot of the contemporary, I won't say any names, but you find a lot of music fans, specifically female fans, who grew up, maybe within our age group, they grew up with more classic music, but there's like a taste regression to where they kind of are really connected to the type of music that's out right now, to where the subject matter that you talk about, the imagery, not necessarily nobody's being approved, but it's just really strange. It's really weird when you're old enough to experience and witness a certain bar, but you're comfortable with the music being at a lower bar. It's really strange.
Right. Yeah. I think that comes to the point that he was saying earlier, that it's some of the, if you can't beat them, join them, but also the tendency for us as we mature in numerical age to attempt to keep up with the times. So it's like, well, maybe that's what's, that's the thing. I need to adapt my thinking. And, we go there, and I just don't think I need to adapt my thinking. I think that it's the emperor has no clothes on. Y'all just, we need to naked. Like, he really is naked. Like, we just need to all say that, because that's what we see.
Yeah.
And realize that is not, like, that doesn't feel good. You calling yourself a what? And like, like many years ago, if somebody had called you that same thing, you would have been up in arms. But now you call yourself one of those. Okay.
Yeah. I mean, Angie, well, Stevie, any final questions for our special guest today?
In fact, I've just got a DM from Jenny Acko. She's slightly concerned no one can recall a song. She wants to come on the show in a few weeks. But, no, honestly, Anne, it's just, I hope you come on. I hope we get you on again at some point. It's great to see you and talk to you, and recalling all them stories,
Thank you. I definitely
appreciate you.
I appreciate you guys. I've definitely enjoyed, and I hope that you guys will tune in. Anyone listening will tune in to the new music and the old music. You can find the old music on my website, angiemusic.com. angiemusic.com. Yes. Oh my goodness. Now I'm trying, because there's another Angie.
It is.
There's another Angie. So that's been causing me a few issues on social media. So my website is angiemusic.com.
Okay. Is it without the E? So this is what it is.
Yeah, the old music is there and the new music is there. Yes, thank you.
Okay. Yeah, definitely.
I sent you the in your IG, I sent you the article I was talking about with Mo Better Blues, so you can check that out.
Okay, thank you.
Yes, and then the last thing I have is Karen White's The Facts of Love. Remember the first record? The first record. It was the up-tempo record that he did with Jeff Lober. It was before Superwoman. Go back and listen to that.
1985,
1986.
The Way You Love Me?
The Way You Love Me. That's the one.
Oh, okay.
It's the one from 86 or whatever. She has that vibrato that you talked about.
Yes.
Very, very good. Very, very good.
I love that vibrato. Like, that changed, really, that was a major thing for me in my styling. Because when I heard that, I was like, oh, I had never heard that before in up-tempo music. And she was just doing it so fast. I was like, oh, I've got to get that. So to this day.
Oh, I'm going to make sure I'll send her this so she can hear what you just said. So. Yeah.
And
But
big shout out to your husband. Big shout out to him, and big salute to his father, who's recently transitioned
Yes.
history and finance and and education. So big salute to him. So
Thank
yes.
you for that. Thank you for that, Sheldon. Yes. Yes.
yeah.
Nice.
Wow. I mean, and we've been, we're privileged that not only that you came on, but that you hung with us for this long. And as Stevie says, this is our passion has really been to just to celebrate our artists and to really we do hope that we're going to get generation of artists who will understand that don't sell yourself short, that just stick to your principles and your values, and that's why I truly admire hearing your story today. And on behalf of Stevie and Sheldon, we definitely appreciate you taking your time today. But we're definitely going to make sure that you come back and we can talk about either the state of music or your next single or something like that. But we're going to take advantage of this amazing opportunity to
Yeah.
to continue to work with to celebrate you and enjoy your presence as well.
Thank you. I thank you guys so much. I really appreciate each and every one of you.
Thank you. Like Namdi said, the Atlantic East-West Chronicles. So just joking.
Okay, yeah. No, we've spoken to over 100 artists, and we've gotten some positive stuff and some negative stuff. But as I said, it's always great to see. I mean, the thing you said, and Stevie helped reflect that, is that despite all the ups and downs, there were still positives to came from that. I mean,
Absolutely.
to release 2 albums on a major, that's most people don't. Cut Close had just the 1 album. They couldn't get their second one out. So that's to do 2 albums, have all that material out there and still come away with your dignity. That's yeah. I mean that's really powerful stuff, and I truly admire you for that.
Yeah, that's the platinum spirit. It's worth its weight in platinum and gold. So hey, that's great.
Stevie, did you ever tell Anne what your favorite track was then?
What of Anne's?
Yeah.
Oh, there's 4 or 5. There's 4 or 5. Obviously, the duet with Tim Owens is probably a standout. But I like the new Jack ones, Heart Donor. That's one of my faves. From the second album, One Step Closer. They're the ones that, and obviously the one that sounds like Guy, Your Eyes Say It. I still love that record today. But they're my picks. They're my Angie picks. Love at Dawn, the ballad. Ballad.
Yes, that's it. That's primo there. Yes.
Thank you. Y'all just really, you guys have blessed me so much today. I hope that you know that. You really have.
We appreciate it. But we're definitely going to make sure that we will re-extend the invitation and to help celebrate stuff. So, but we're going to also make sure, as I said, we when this goes out, we make sure that the people are aware of your website and your IG handling and so they can look at your old stuff and your new music as well.
Awesome. Thank you so much.
Okay.
Thank you.
All right. Thank you, Anne.
Thank you. Have the best day.
You too.
Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.
Isn't she lovely? Isn't she wonderful? Isn't she precious? Less than 1 minute old. I never thought through love we'd be making one as lovely as she. But isn't she
guys, thanks for watching. Thanks for being a part of Halftime Chat. Please remember to subscribe, share, and comment. But most importantly, why don't you become a member of Halftime Chat? We've got amazing videos, amazing perks, and being able to support the channel. But anyway, thanks for watching. Take care.
I never participated in that kind of.
And somewhere in between
us for even loving us, on which I did miss you.
What was it like growing up?
She's still making an impact on 4 houses down.
I have a couple of pieces.
trying to get this one and that one.
That works for you, but just for me,
No, okay.
They don't understand what Jonas Boys and men all spirits.
Play it.
And all these guys, they all work together.
I mean, I love all different genres.